Welcome to Swayam online portal on urban local governance. Today's video is on evolution of local government in India. I think introducing local government in India would be a good idea to start off to understand what is urban local governance. Now, if you want to know what is local government, then you should understand the term Panchayat. The term Panchayat literally means an assembly of 5 elders elected by the villagers. 5 senior most elected members of the village will become the Panchayat. The word Panch means 5. Panchayat Raj system and process of governance is something which is associated with local government. So, understanding local government is very important, and to understand local government, we need to understand what is Panchayati Raj. Now, to understand Panchayat Raj institution, we already understood the term Panchayat, which is derived from the term Panch, which means 5. It is also termed from the word Pancha or Pancha Vansu Stita, has reference into the existence of gram sanghas or rural communities. So, Panchayat, when we are talking about rural communities. It all started from the rural areas, from the villages, because they had a process of introducing the elders to the system of governance. And so, at the local level or at the village level itself, the governance was understood. The institution of Panchayat Raj is not a new term, it is a very old term, as old as the Indian civilization. And when you talk about the word Indian civilization itself, you know that civilization is an amalgamation of local government institution, and the term Panchayat Raj institution also is in line with this old Indian civilization. It was in existence since ancient periods, having an effective control over civil and judicial matters in the village community. Any judicial aspect or civil issues can be dealt at the Panchayat level itself. When it is not resolved at the Panchayat itself, then it moves to the higher level of government. So, Panchayat Raj institution was always there in our institution, or I would say local government in the English term was always existence. It was coexistence with the life existence or the civilization of the people. Understanding Panchayat Raj institution hence becomes very important. If you take the Rig Veda, Manusmrita or the Dharma Shastras or the Upanishads or the Jatakas and whatever you mention from the old texts, you can see it is associated with local administration. Why? If you also talk about the Panchatantra books, you will see how Panchayati system has been introduced at an early level itself for the education system. The Panchayat system of administration is something coexistent with the education and also governance and the lifestyle of the people. In the Manusmriti and the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, there are so many references to the existence of the gram sanghas of village councils. Now, why do you think it's important? Although we know that Mahabharata refers to the Panchayat, how judicial system prevailed during the ancient period and how justice was done, but not by the king himself, but at the local level, at the Panchayat level. The earliest reference of the Panchayat is derived from the word Pancha, as already we discussed, and the word 5 is in coexistence with the system of local government. Pancha or Pancha Vanu Sthita is found in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. Pancha and Pancha Vanu Sthita are semiotically close to Panchayat. In the sense, the language used itself is Panchayat, which means Panch, 5 members. A description of these village councils are also found in the Arthashastra, where Kautilya refers the need of a village council, and that goes behind as 400 BC. During this period, the village administration was carried out under the supervision and the control of Adhyaksha, or the headman. Adhyaksha was the head of the Panchayat, who decides, or I would say he had the suo motu. If there is no consensus within the village members, he would decide on behalf of the village. Judicial decisions are also made, so also the civil decision. So political awareness is something which is part and parcel of the Indian civilization. So it is nothing new. Only thing, in the recent time we see that there is a fading of the political awareness, because understanding political awareness also will help in understanding the rights of the people or the citizens. There were other officials such as the Samyaka, or the accountant, and the Anikitsaka, veterinary doctor who is taking care of the animals. Then the Jamg Karmika, or the village couriers, who passes messages from one village to another or passes information, and the Chikitsa, that means a physician. The village headman, or the Adhyaksha, was responsible for the collection of the state dues and controlling the activities of the offenders. So they are the watch keepers of that particular village. So you see, there was a system or a process, and that's why we are calling the Indian civilization, because we never had a barbaric system. We had an institution called Panchayat, even at the local level, which is at the village level. Now, if you take the Mauryan period saw the village as a basic unit of administration. Villagers used to organize works of public utility and recreation, settle disputes, and act of trustees for the property of the miners. So the Mauryan period, which is also known as the Golden Period, along with the Gupta period, was emanating the governance at the local level. The village council appeared to have evolved into regular bodies in the Gupta period. They were known as the Pancha Mandalas in central India and Grama Chanapatas in Bihar. These bodies negotiated with the government for concessions and settlement of disputes, especially if they have issues of seasonal rains or food security issues or disputes within the land or within that particular village. So we can see how governance is strengthened at the local level or the village level in the form of Gram Janapadas or in the form of Panchamandalas in the Gupta period. Now, if you move down to the south, you see the Chola dynasty. In the Chola dynasty, you see the village administrations were performed very stringently. They had a process. If you go to a place called Uttarameru in Tamil Nadu, you can see epithets kept on the sides of the temple showing how local governance was performed. And you can't imagine that how local government was performed very systematically. And also it was taken by lots by the youngest member of the village, who would just pick up a lot and call that person a part of the Panchayat system. So it was matter of luck, and so it was also a matter of choice, and it was not a matter of preference. And so you see that although there was a Varna system which existed, there was some systematic process as far as local government is concerned, especially in the Chola dynasty down south. The inscriptions of the Chola dynasty shows the construction and functions of the village assembly and the executive committees. You can see that in the epithets, you can see how the inscription also relate organized and functional the local government was and what the government will do for the needs of the people. And so that we can call ourselves civilized citizens. And if you see, as late as the Chola dynasty, we can see good governance being practiced for the needs of the people, for the benefit of the people, for strengthening the society, so that the king will be happy, so also the administration. And the king only survives for the needs of the people. If the people are happy, the administration is well practiced, and also the kingdom is fine. You can see also Panchayati system in the period of Sher Shah Suri. In the regime of the Sher Shah Suri, the villages were governed by their own Panchayat. Each Panchayat comprised of village elders who looked after the interests of the people and administered justice and imposed punishment on defaulters. The headman of the village, a semi-government official, acted as a coordinator between the village panchayat and the higher administrative hierarchy. He in fact forms a bridge between the administration of the kingdom as well as the local government with the villages. So the relation between the villages and the kingdom is not negotiable at any level. And you see, a good administrator reflects good governance at the grassroots level. During the British period, we see the eminence of local government at a very greater level, I would say. In the year 1687, a municipal corporation came to be formed in Madras. It was set up by a British model of town council. This body was empowered to levy taxes for building guild halls and schools. Similar bodies were set in major towns, and this model became prevalent all over India, helping the British widen their taxation power. Although it was a very good model, the purpose of the model was just for levying taxes, for collection of information and collection of taxes and revenues, not for good governance. Although it benefited the Indian system because we already had a panchayat system. So let us not take the credit away from the Indian civilization that the local government came from India, not which is borrowed from British. Although it was made more simplified or more organized because of the disorientation of the British colonial period, you can see how the Indian governance were completely demantalized, or I would say demoralized, as far as governance is concerned. So this dismantling of the local government was seriously taken into action by the British period because they could levy taxes and saw that it would benefit the British. So the revival of the Panchayati system in a different form as a town model or a town council model of British in India. We should give a little credit to Lord Mayo, the then Viceroy of India during the period 1869 to 1872, who felt the need to decentralize powers in order to bring about administrative efficiency. And in the year 1870, he introduced the concept of elected representatives in the urban municipalities. Again, this is for collecting taxes. An elected representative was actually not really elected, but there would be some kind of preference or recommendation and nepotism so that the British still had control over the villages. Nevertheless, it was promoting the idea of having an election which need not be fair and square, but at least the idea of elected member, which is very democratic in the process when you think about having an election for selecting the head person or the panchayat members. So that's why I say that we might give a due credit to Lord Mayo, who wanted to decentralize and gain power of the British India by levying taxes and also collection of taxes and revenue so that the income can be strengthened as far as the British India is concerned. At the same time, this was brought about with administrative efficiency so that they can keep track of the collection of the revenue and the taxes. So we can remember the Bengal Chaukidar Act of 1870. The Bengal Chaukidar Act of 1870 marked the beginning of the revival of the traditional village panchayati system of Bengal. The Chaukidar Act, Chaukidar means a protection for that particular area. The Chaukidar Act empowered district magistrates, that is, giving them the power to make judgment, to set up panchayats of nominated members in the villages, to collect taxes, to pay the chaukidars or watchmen engaged by them. So this was promoting a kind of decentralized local government and also promoting the idea of localization of administration, so that there is decentralization and also there is complete control of the collection of taxes. And also they were getting favors on behalf of the chaukidars. Now, the most important person as far as the British in India is concerned is Lord Ripon, who made a remarkable change as far as local government is concerned. We can consider Lord Ripon as the father of local government in India. He made remarkable contribution to the development of local government. In 1882, he abandoned the existing system of local government by officially nominated people. In the sense, officially nominated, that is, he would officially nominate people and also given them the power as far as the British in India is concerned. The government resolution of 18th May 1882 stands as a landmark in the structural evolution of local government. It provides for local boards consisting of a majority, perhaps I would say a local majority of elected non-official members and presided over by a non-official chairperson. So this was definitely a landmark because it provided local boards and consisted of non-official, because when it is made by more official, then you can see that it is more biased on the behalf of the British in India. So they had a mixture of official nominated people, but then at the same time abandoning the system gave rise to a non-official system of non-official members, which is presided by non-official chairperson. So there might be very neutral effect as far as governance is concerned. Now we can call this as a Magna Carta of local democracy in India, because on one side you see that there is no influence of the British. It might look like that, but also it is non-official as well as elected or nominated by the villagers itself. This resolution proposed the establishment of rural local boards where 2/3 of the whole membership was composed of elected representatives. So now we see from non-official, nominated, it is moving towards elected representative, and 2/3 of the membership. So you see a majority of them is an elected representative. Elected, so they are representing the needs of the people. So that's why we call this as a Magna Carta as far as local government is concerned, and so 1882 made a landmark change as far as local government is concerned. He brought in the concept of self-government in urban municipalities. He is treated as the father of urban local government too. Ripon's resolution followed a series of committees, commissions and acts in this line. And so there evolved a system of rural government as well as urban local government, and it was becoming more decentralized. However, we can also give credit to the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms of 1990. This reform transferred the subject of local government to the domain of the provinces. The reform also recommended that as far as possible, there should be a complete popular control in local bodies and the largest possible independence for them of outside control. By 1925, 8 provinces had passed village panchayat acts. So we see more decentralization and also how the domain of the provinces is inclusive of local government. And hence, you see how the evolution is taking place from the ancient times to the British India. You see the complete transformation. But at the end of the day, it is only becoming more localized and decentralized because the power exists in the smaller units, village units, as far as local government in India is concerned. Since we are dealing with the history and the evolution of local government, it is important to consider every stage which has contributed to the evolution or the development or tracing the evolution or development of local government in India. In such moves or acts, you see that the Government of India Act of 1935 is also considered important for the stages of evolution as far as the involvement of British is concerned in local government. With popularly elected government in the provinces, almost all the provincial administration felt duty bound to enact legislation for further democratization of local self-government institutions, including village panchayats. Now you see the term local self-government being used. What is this local self-government? Different from local government? Yes, there is a difference. Here we see local self-government being used by the British because the self-government is given to the Indians who will be ruling themselves, governance by themselves. And hence British is an outsider, then we use the word local self-government. Nowadays, we don't use the term local self-government because we govern ourselves. The entire government is run by the Indian citizens only. So, we don't use the word self-government, but we use the word local government. And hence, you see why there is a difference between local self-government and local government. Now, we look into the Panchayati Raj institutions in independent India. In independent India, we see a transformation of Panchayati Raj in independent India. What is that? It's a 3-tier structure of the Indian administration, especially for rural development, and it was termed as Panchayati Raj. The aim of the Panchayati Raj is to develop local self-government in districts, zones and villages. Okay, so the word Panchayati is used for rural development, and then we have a term which has evolved for the urban government also. The Constitution recognizes the Panchayati Raj in Article 40, which is very important. But remember, it is not made mandatory, and hence it was realized that it should be made mandatory. So, what does the Article 40 mention? It says that the state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government. So, they are giving the decentralized aspect and also the self-government aspect. Now, decentralized governance is to be felt at the villages because the needs of the villages has to be met. And you should remember that every village will have its needs completely different. One village might require water, the other village might require infrastructure. So, the article clearly mentions how the state shall take steps to organize village panchayat has to be organized by taking into consideration the number of people to form a village, and the small unit will be termed as Gram Sabha. So, I shall repeat the Article 40 for better understanding after understanding the meaning, that the state shall be taking steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such powers and authorities so as to make it necessary for them to enable them to function as units of self-government. So, this has been empowered by the Constitution itself. But is that enough? to make it mandatory to have local government? It was not made mandatory. So many of the states denied or refused to have a panchayat. It was found necessary to make it mandatory. And that's why the introduction of the 73rd and the 74th Panchayati Raj and also the urban local government was introduced. Now, if you talk about the evolution of Panchayati Raj, there were a number of committees appointed by the Government of India to study the implementation of self-government at the rural level and also recommend steps in achieving this goal. So, if you talk about the evolution, I would always talk about the acronym BAGS. You might wonder what this acronym BAGS mean. It means Balwant Rai Committee, which stands for B, A for Ashok Mehta Committee, G for the GVK Rao Committee, and S for the LM Singhvi Committee. I've taken either the initials or the first letter of their names so that it can be easily understood. So, when you talk about the evolution, you should think about the Balwant Rai Committee, Ashok Mehta Committee, then the GVK Rao Committee and the LM Singhvi Committee, which is very important. Now, let us understand these committees separately. Now, if you take the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, the committee was appointed in 1957 to examine and suggest measures for better working of the Community Development Program and the National Extensive Service. So, the purpose was not to make local government more aggressive, but also to make it more purposeful. The idea was to make it in line with the Planning Commission and as well as the NDC, National Development Council, and they realized, why don't we make a community development program at the local level. So, in 1957, it was the committee under the headship of Balwant Rai Committee Mehta that he introduced the idea of having community development programs so that it is in line with the welfare state which the government was promoting, as India was trying to move away from a police state to a welfare state. And of course, the National Extension Service also intended for developing the rural areas. The committee suggested the establishment of a democratic, decentralized local government, which came to be known as the Panchayati Raj. So, before the evolution of the real term urban local governance, we only had a common term called a Panchayati Raj institution or Panchayati Raj system, which was famously termed as PRS. Now, if you understand, we will discuss more in detail about the Panchayati Raj, but then if I have to summarize till what I have taken, you can see how from the Vedas, from the Manusmriti, from the Shanti Parva of Mahabharata to the Arthashastra of Kautilya, then we have moved to the Mauryan period, then the Mughal period, and then we have Suri. Of course, Suri comes before the Mughal period. How administration was performed more effectively because of local governance and because of the village panchayat, and it was termed differently, but then it believed in the term of panch or 5 members. And I would say why this 5 members is because they had one head and with 4 other members, and the head had the veto power. How do you think he had the veto power? If they go in for a vote or a consensus, then and if they find there are equal votes, that is 2 votes for favoring and 2 votes not favoring, then the headman makes his final decision. And that's why it was termed as Panchayat. And always they had a 5-member or an odd member group so that the decisions could be finalized. And then it went into the British period, and we see how Lord Mayo, Lord Ripon had given the Magna Carta of local administration, and how the Montague-Chelmsford reforms made changes and made a complete evolution of local government and also was realized in the Government of India Act of 1935 before independence. And here we come with the evolution of Panchayati Raj, which is very important. If you take the evolution, we understand that so many committees were set after independence for committing themselves to create a welfare state, which was the aim. And this aim was realized in the form of Article 40 of the Indian Constitution. And you see how the village panchayat was set, but it was not made mandatory. So you see that the evolution of Panchayati Raj has seen the transformation from the Rig Vedas till the British India. But now we need to understand the Panchayati Raj much better after the British, after India got independence. Thank you very much.